Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. How's your day going? It's good? Okay. So I think we were supposed to start at 1:35, but I thought it was 1:45, so we're ready to have 10 minutes delay. I'll try to see if we can catch up later, but afterward there is a break, so we'll try to see if we can extend. My name is Max Amordeluso, and I have the privilege of being the Alexa evangelist in Europe, one of the Alexa evangelists in Europe. So my job is basically to talk about Alexa all the time with anybody who wants to listen anywhere in Europe. So that's basically my job description. I love AWS. That's what brought me into Amazon 4 years ago. First couple of years, I worked as an SA manager in Europe, but then Alexa came along, and I grew up with a lot of sci-fi, science fiction, reading and books and comics and movies. So the idea of being able to work with a computer that you could talk to and she talked back, she made sense, was unpassable. So I started working with Alexa 2 years ago for this reason. So, but let's talk more about the reason why we're doing this in Amazon. So we're doing this because we believe that voice is the most natural interface ever thought for to interact with technology. So voice is ours, voice is natural, we don't need to think about using it most of the time, and it allows us, it affords us, if the science below supports us, to interact with technology in a way that is unparalleled. Now, I wanted to show you, I wanted to start on a light note. This is Star Trek IV, where the crew of the Star Trek, of the Enterprise, of the Star Trek, the crew of the Enterprise goes back in time in the 80s in the US.
Please.
Computer? Computer? Hello, computer.
Just use the keyboard.
The keyboard.
I just cannot resist from using this little clip over and over. And thank you for those of you that graciously laughed or smiled about it, because I think this is exactly what we're talking about here. So you're seeing these two individuals that are assuming that you can simply interact in the way that they're accustomed to, using their voice with a computer. And they go back to the harsh reality of the 80s, or even of the 90s for that matter, where this could not be done. So in Amazon, we think that each one of these phases, as you're familiar with this, because you have lived the most of these phases, they've changed our lives. They changed the way that we do business. They changed the way that we reach our customers. So we connect with technology. We are here right now. We are in this phase, the voice user interface phase. We are at the beginning of it. So we're leaving the very few steers, the very beginning, because in Amazon, we put Echo devices on the market in Americans' houses in 2014, and now we have expanded to other countries. But we are still at the beginning, because if we think about it, what is the bar? The bar is the way that we talk to each other. The bar is the way that human beings interact with each other. It's a pretty high bar. We can disambiguate, we can use, we can infer meaning, we can use our experiences, our emotions, our expressions, a number of things. So we still have an enormous amount of work to do, but we have started. So this is the beginning. But the point here is there is actually 2 points. That this is happening, and this is something that is going to base the future and the near present as well of interactions with technology for human beings. And also, the same way that each one of these steps represented opportunities to create a new companies, new startups, new opportunities to reach customers, and to create new technology or ways to consume technology is the same way today. So voice again, natural. So I will say this many, many, many times. Voice is ours. Voice is the whole point of doing doing this technology. And by voice, I mean the way that we interact. Ours, unique, natural, without having to learn how to use it. Now, let's compare a couple of things here on the way that we can accomplish certain tasks. And let's think about adding a to-do. So, modern way, locate a phone, unlock the phone, find the app, and so on, and then perform a series of tasks, of actions, pretty much to do one single thing. If you just say, Alexa, book flight to my to-do list, you have it. You don't even have to look at anything. You can keep doing what you're doing with your hands. You can keep driving. You can keep cooking. You can keep writing, and so on. So but you get the point. So there is a before and after way. Am I saying here that voice is going to become the only way of doing this? Absolutely not. We'll see later a couple of points on when it makes sense actually to use voice and when it might not make sense. Another example here, turning off the lights. There is a modern way so that you can use your phone. If you have any smart home device and enabled light, you can pull up a number of apps that actually can do this. And you're still sitting, let's assume, on the sofa. But then let's say that the old way, the very old way, was just get up and turn off or on the lights, right? And again, here, turn off the bedroom light, or even more important, in my opinion, let's say that I can see from my bedroom that I left the kitchen light on. This happens fairly often in our house, and I have to get out of bed and go downstairs. If I can simply say, Alexa, turn off the lights in the kitchen, boom, I'm done. And I'm saying this, you might wonder, say, why, Max, don't you have an Alexa in the bedroom? My wife doesn't allow it. So that's a different story, but it's just a side note. Now, as I mentioned before, sometimes it's better to use voice, sometimes it's not better to use voice. So easier, faster, more natural, then you might think that this is a good utilization for a voice user interface. A couple of pointers here. Touch still provides usually more information, because by touch I mean touch as an input, but obviously the feedback is given by both sound and images and haptics sometimes. So by touch we mean all of that, not just touch, obviously. So there is more information, it's more familiar for some of us, and I'll get back to this point. Not for everyone in the spectrum of life, right? So some kids, definitely. The majority of us in our adult phase of life, yes. Older people, maybe not so much. And then voice, faster. You don't have to think about it again to use it, and it's very immediate and fast. Now, how do we expose this? From Alexa, we expose this through two major frameworks, the Alexa Skills Kit and the Alexa Voice Service. So, for those of you not familiar, an Alexa skill, is the voice equivalent of an app. The same way that you have mobile devices in your pocket that use apps that you can select in an app store of various kind, and then you pick what you want, you enable it or install it, whichever way it works for you. And an Alexa skill is a voice-first app. On the other side, we have the Alexa Voice Service. This is how you take Alexa and you put it into things. Let's say you're a manufacturer of objects, of wearable, of refrigerators, of cars, of anything you might think of, as long as it has a speakerphone, a microphone, and an internet connection, you can put Alexa in it with this framework. And this is being done. This is being done there are currently more than 100 distinct products that have used this framework to embed Alexa into it. So the idea here is that why should you limit yourself, and your customers especially, in the way they consume a voice assistant? You shouldn't. Why shouldn't you make available the opportunity for somebody like me to drink a coffee and consume their news from a screen attached to their fridge, or from their car where they're driving, and to have a seamless experience? So concept of Alexa everywhere. Because the vision was to provide, very closely related to Star Trek, as I showed before, an ambient computing opportunity for everyone. And by ambient computing, I mean the opportunity to be living and occupying a space and talking with computing entity of some sort without having to worry about specifically where is the device that I have to interact with. I just interact with the ambient. So that's called ambient computing, and that is one of the vision behind it. So all of these have to be considered as Alexa endpoints, where you can actually provide your customer with the delightful voice experience that you have created. So some more examples here of products that have Alexa embedded in it. And then let's talk a little bit about skills. So skills, lots of skills nowadays. We recently passed 40,000 skills globally available to customers. Hundreds of thousands of skills developers in the world. They're trying out, they're developing things and voice experiences. Some of these you might be using. You might be using with your Alexa-enabled device. And I'm saying Alexa-enabled device versus Echo devices because there is a big difference here. By Echo device, I mean devices made by Amazon of the Echo family. By Alexa-enabled devices, I mean all of those devices, including those third-party that have just built Alexa into their products, because the skills that you build will work on both. So we'll work on those tens of millions of Alexa-enabled devices in the world. So very important point. So you have a possibility of creating these public skills that work on anything that is Alexa-enabled. Now, there is a lot of Alexa skills type. These are only some. There are things like custom skills. If you can think it, if you have a backend that supports it, you can very likely build it. There is smart home skills. So we currently are version 3 of the smart home API. We have flash briefings, which are little pills of content that can be consumed, that can be chosen, enabled, and selected, and consumed in the order that we like. Very important. So I have my own list of flash briefing. You can create flash briefings given a source very, very simply. Now, some of the reasons, some of the best in breed that we've seen of our developers, of developers that work with Alexa skills, some of the reasons that you might want to consider to develop skills. I'll pick this one today. So Destiny 2. So this is it's a pretty cool integration that uses both Alexa skills and AVS. I have it on my desk in Luxembourg, a physical ghost. So Activision came to us and said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we were to take the ghost outside of the game and put it physically next to the player so that they can interact with voice with the ghost. And by the way, I should have said, a ghost is an entity inside the game that supports your playing activities with information, it does things for you and so on. It looks a little bit like that blue icon there. So the point here is that you can create a lot of different experiences. If you can think about it, if you can imagine them to reach out and to delight your customers, you have all the tools available to your disposal, especially here in the UK, where we have been live for for almost 2 years now, and you can create a lot. Now, going a little bit deeper into what is a skill and how it works, has two main components. It has similar to applications of different kinds, has a front end and a back end. The only difference, or the main difference here, is that the front end is made by a conversation model. So that by front end, you don't have to design graphics necessarily. You might if you would do special kind of skills. But the main point here is that you design at this phase your conversational model, your interaction model. You design the way that you would want Alexa to interact with your customers, with the user of your skill. And then you have a back end. The back end, we recommend or we advise to use Lambda, for example. There is a lot of different benefits. There is a security management. Lambda integrates with the rest, with the IAM-based architecture. So you're going to have profiles, roles. If you're here, probably you're familiar with some of this concept, but you don't have to. You can use your own backend to support your skills. So it's up to you. Now, let's get a little bit into the flow of information. Everything starts with a human being. So a human utters a command that starts with a keyword, Alexa usually, but it can also be Amazon or Echo or computer. So we picked, obviously, that opportunity, and that's my favorite one. The wake word gets piped into a wake word detector, usually on top of the device. And then when the wake word is detected by this circuit, the streaming of the information of what the human uttered is streamed to the cloud. In the cloud, there is several steps that this sound gets processed. First, you have to decide. You have to remove the noise and you have extrapolate the signal. So you have to take out what the intention of the human being is to get things done, to get information, to communicate with Alexa. So we have a few of the modules, automatic speech recognition, ASR, natural language processing, NLP. All of this has the only purpose of understanding this sound, this audio, and to extrapolate the intention. That intention, we call it intent, and we pass it to you, to your service, to your skill, as a JSON payload. This is just a JSON representation of that intention, and we call that intent. Now, you do your processing in the back, and then you get a JSON in, and you pass a JSON out. That JSON, that text, get into the TTS, the text-to-speech engine, and gets transformed into, synthesized into voice, back then piped to the user. And you can augment this experience, this response, with graphic and audio to make it more delightful. You can add things like SSML and a number of ways to actually increase the naturality of that information. So, as I said in the beginning, we are very aware that we are just at the beginning. So this is day one, as we like to say in Amazon. It's the beginning of this phase. We're working. There is a lot of people like us working. Some of us are here in this room, but there is more than 5,000 people in the world working on this. Fantastically complex problem to address. Lots of invention, lots of innovation that is happening on this realm. And there is in Amazon fashion, we innovate and we iterate quickly. So we hear often things, we hear developers' feedback, we hear what they would like to have, great suggestions, and we put them in. So some of the last things that we have released, just recently we have a version 2 of the Ask SDK for Node.js. We do have, we released a new editor a couple of months ago. We do have kids skills. I'll tell you more about that later. We have in-skill purchases now, general availability in the US. A number of things. We have a fallback intent, super important. Basically, it's an opportunity now to have an intent that is a catch-all to capture all those strange and beautifully natural ways that we talk as human beings, right? Now, we also released Alexa for Business, and I will tell you again a little bit about that later. As I was mentioning, so we started this called Alexa Developers Reward. This is a program we started in 2017 that rewards the most engaging, the most used skills in 8 categories. So there is folks, even here in London, that have built business on the money that they got from Amazon because they built beautifully crafted and very used skills that got them money from Amazon. We also added, and we will slowly release to the rest of the countries where we're in, monetization programs, things like in-skills purchasing. Very important to have microtransactions that are in context, on the moment. So think about you develop a game, you can offer the opportunity to craft or to unlock new levels to your users, for example. And then they would have a microtransaction supported by Amazon Pay. They would not have to pull out a credit card. They will be integrated with everything they already have in the Amazon account, linked to the skill, and boom. And then you have that premium experience available, and you just made a transaction with your user. So lots of opportunities there. Now, we introduced something called the Gadgets API. So the buttons here that you see represented are, Gadgets API is a way of connecting devices to Alexa-enabled devices to bridge the gap between the Alexa world and the material world, so that you can use this button to communicate with the device. Think about games of Simon Says or Trivial Pursuit or things like this one. This is a sharpshooter, or not a sharpshooter. This is a Western duel fight that my kids actually like a lot. You have to press who press faster, who press first, and so on. You can do sequence on games and a lot of opportunities again to entertain. And that was, that was the Gadgets API. Kids skills. This is something else that we have released in Europe as well. A couple of days ago, last week actually, we did release kids skills. Kids skills. There is an enormous amount of opportunities here to create skills that are going to delight young ones, that are going to potentially make you money and get you rewards and get you a lot of visibility and engagement from users. So by kids skills, we intend specific categories of skill that is intended to be used and delights kids 16 and younger here in Europe. Basically, these are skills that can entertain. First of all, they're very safe. They are under the parent control. We use a parental consent, a set of authorization models, just to make sure that parents are okay with this. And you can craft experiences that can be consumed by the whole family together. So very engaging. You can teach, you can have edutainment skills. And just to give you a couple of examples, this is my favorite of the bunch currently. So Kids Court, so there is a developer, these are all winners of a Kids Challenge prize that we recently had. The Kids Court has Alexa playing Judge Lexi to resolve kids' disputes and fights. If you don't have kids, this might seem absolutely trivial. If you have kids, this seems to be, if it works, absolutely delightful. So what they have done here is that there is Judge Lexi that takes the offending party, let's say, and attributes the roles, the prosecutor, the perpetrator, the victim, and so on, and gets to talk about this. It gets the kids to actually elaborate on actually what happened. And it's also very well made because it uses some of the best practices that we have gathered and we have crafted to make sure that kids interact in the right way. So there are things like shorter information provided by Alexa. There is confirmation of what is expected by the young user, and so on. But this bunch here, I would suggest that you look them up. Very, very engaging, very good best practices if you want to create this sort of skills. Now, Alexa for Business. We get a lot of requests at events about Alexa for Business. So Alexa for Business is an AWS service. And it has a number of advantages and characteristics and features that make Alexa very usable, very advantageous to use in large organizations, in hospital. Think about hospital or think about hospitality chains. Think about hotel rooms. There already are some chains or some hotels that have Alexa in rooms. So we're talking about here shared devices that can still, though, be used in a personalized way by the user. We're talking about also things like centralized device fleet management. Very important. Think about you have 5,000 Alexa-enabled devices to manage. You don't want to manage one by one, obviously. So you want to have a centralized way, you want to have a management console, and we provide that. There are also things like private skills. You can create private skills under Alexa for Business, because a skill, a regular skill, part of the Alexa Skills Kit, gets created, gets tested, gets submitted for certification, and then gets published to everyone that actually wants it. That's the whole point. It's widely available. This is the opposite. Think about that you have a specific IP, for example, or you want to use that skill only in that hotel chain, and so on. You can create private skills. And then you can integrate it with Active Directories and other directories. So there is a lot of opportunities here to create experiences for shared devices in limited organizations. So a couple of the things here that I was talking about. There is a conferencing dashboard and so on. Now, I have the pleasure. I have a customer, an Alexa Skills Kit customer, David Sharp, who heads technology for Ocado 10X.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Max. Good afternoon. So I'm David Sharp. I'm head of Ocado Technology 10X. 10X is where you're trying to make things 10 times better. So it's pretty serious. Now, how many of you have shopped for groceries online? About a third. If you use Ocado, you can shop with Alexa. That's the incentive in this talk. Let's go forwards instead of backwards. So this talk has 3 parts. I'll give you a quick introduction to Ocado. Then we'll take a look at the Ocado Alexa skill, which enables you to order your groceries online with the twist of a tongue. Then we'll have a brief look at the future. Ocado. Ocado is the world's largest online-only grocer. It's got over £1.3 billion worth of retail sales. It delivers 260,000 orders per week. And in each order, there's typically 50 items. And if you whip out your calculator and multiply 260,000 by 50, you will discover that that means we have picked over 13 million bananas, cucumbers, grapes, and so on every week. There's a catalogue with 49,000 items in it. That's a lot to choose from. And the thing that's different about Ocado is that we have 99% order accuracy, meaning that if you've ordered it, it's very likely to arrive. Unlike our competitors, who have to pick from their stores, where Mrs. Smith picked the bananas before the person who was going to pick your bananas arrived, so you got no bananas. Ocado operates from 2 enormous warehouses. There's one in Hatfield, north of London, and there's one in Birmingham, in a place called Dordon, and they're very big. You could fit 5 football pitches into the one in Birmingham, 7 into the one in Hatfield. And we're so good, they're full. So we're having to build 2 more. We're building one to the southwest of London in Andover, and we're also building one in London in a place called Erith, which is near Greenwich, which is not far from here. And that's going to be 7.5 football pitches big. So that's very big. And if you look down the road at Tesco's, it's a quarter of the size. That's how big it is. Now, Morrison's tried to go online, and they found it was quite hard. They tried several times, and then they thought, let's ask Ocado to help. So they said, Ocado, please dress up your drivers in Morrison's uniforms. Please paint your vines yellow, and please can we use half your warehouse in Birmingham? And we said, no problem. And in the first year of doing this, they grew from nothing to £200 million a year. Would you like to do that? It's good, isn't it? And the next year, they grew another half to £300 million a year. And this was so good, Ocado thought, well, let's try and do it abroad. And we've now got our first 3 clients, just like buses that arrive 3 at once. And we've got Groupe Casino in France, so we're going to build a warehouse in Paris. We've got Sobeys in Canada, so we're going to build a warehouse in Canada. And we've got ICA Group in Sweden, so we're going to build a warehouse in Sweden too. Now, what's in these warehouses? Why are they buying these warehouses? I want you to imagine a flat floor. That's easy, there's one in front of me. On the floor, I'm going to stack a box of groceries. It's got bananas in it. And on top, another one of cucumbers. And on top, another one of grapes. And so on. 22 boxes high. With another stack of boxes next door. In between the stack is a metal pole. If I look down from the top, I see a thing that looks like a chessboard, which is about 30,000 columns of boxes of groceries. I put rails across the top, and on the rails I put robots. The robot can reach down and reach the top grocery box and move it around, and it can bring a box of bananas next to the box that's going to go to your house. And a person, and soon a robot, will transfer the bananas out of the grocery box and into your house box. And then it goes off to your house. And it looks like this. Here are the robots. They walk around, they roll around on this metal structure, and they can use a grabber to grab the top of these white boxes, suck it into their tummy, and move it to where we need it. And they suck the banana box and your box off to the side, and then, once they're connected, a human can transfer the bananas from one box to another. But the human has limited life, because here comes the sucking robot. This robot is practicing in Andover alongside the humans. This is probably one of the best sucking robots around. And the thing that makes it best is its vision system. It can look in that box and decide which of those tins is the one that's most likely to get sucked up successfully. I lead the department called Ocado Technology 10X. This is where we have to make things not 10% better every year, but 10 times better in 1 year. The only thing is, we don't tell them which year that will be. We do experiments with driverless vehicles, like this connected cargo pod over here. It drives your groceries to your house, and you have to go out and get them out of the cargo pod. But we're working on making that easier. We use lots of artificial intelligence algorithms to try and make Ocado a better business, forecasting things better, for example, or maybe enhancing the call center. We work inside the warehouse to make even cleverer robots with lots of exciting bits inside. And we also work in the kitchen, where we're beginning to see the emergence of smart appliances that know how much they've been used and hence when to reorder themselves, or reorder their descaler or their washing powder. And our venture into the kitchen has encountered us with the Amazon devices, the Amazon Echo running Alexa. And so that is what we will discover next. I will tell you about the Ocado Alexa skill. This part is in 3 bits. First, we'll look at the ingredients you need to create an Ocado Alexa skill. Then I'll show you 5 examples of Alexa being clever. And then we'll talk about some challenges. Here we go. As Max explained, if you were paying attention, when you say add milk to Alexa, and then beautifully it says milk added, behind the scenes, lots was going on. There was the Ocado skill in the Alexa service. We had to give the Alexa service a whole load of intents, like add to basket, and a whole load of terms, like milk or bananas, which you might want to add to the basket. And we had to write, using our 1,000 software engineers, we didn't use them all, the Alexa service, oh, it's gone away, come back. The Alexa service, which has to handle the intents. So when Alexa says to us, add to basket milk, we know what to do. We have to send a response saying, add milk. We've added milk. And we also have to put the milk in the real basket as well. And we have to manage the dialogue, because they might then say, add another milk. Okay, we've got to know how to handle the dialogue. Now, intents and slots. So some of the intents we have on the Ocado service are, Alexa, ask Ocado to add something, a grocery item, maybe add 2 more grocery items, remove a grocery item, or even remove that, where we have to get the that right. Suggest an alternative, check if a grocery item is in the basket, confirm if a delivery is on time, and find when I can edit my order till. Okay, so some useful stuff. Now, for each intent, you have to give Alexa examples. So if you want to add a grocery item, you might say, please add some milk. But you might say, please, can I have some milk? Or you might say, please put some milk in my basket. Or you might say, I need a bottle of milk. And all these different ways of saying it have got to be understood. And then we have to give a list of the terms that could be the grocery item, like Yeo Valley semi-skimmed milk, or Ocado premium full cream milk, and 23,000 other things we say. But notice we sell 50,000 items, and they only let us give them 23,000 terms, so we're missing a few. Then you have to write the assistant service. Okay, so when the user says, Alexa, ask Ocado to add milk, you've got to make Alexa say, I added milk, can I help with anything else? And now the user can be a bit tricky. He might say, remove that, or suggest another, or she might say, yes, please, or add 2 more, or maybe no, thank you. So you've got to write a play. It's a bit like a play where you write the script, but each actor might say 4 different things at once, and then the next actor has to react, and so on and so on. So it can get reasonably big. Let's see this in action. Let's see some examples. Here come 5 examples. You can guess the first one. Alexa, please add milk.
Alexa, ask Ocado to add milk.
Okay, I've added Yeo Valley organic semi-skimmed milk at £1.15 to your Ocado trolley. Can I help with anything else?
Now, notice it didn't say I added milk. It said I added Yeo Valley organic semi-skimmed milk. How did it know I wanted that? The answer was that's what I bought last time. It's in my favorites. Okay, so we need to make Alexa very clever. Otherwise, you'd have a whole dialogue about which sort of milk you wanted. Let's look at the next example.
Alexa, ask Ocado what's in my trolley.
You have 3 items in your trolley totaling £5.90. To check for a specific item, say, do I have cheese in my trolley? Do you need help with anything else?
Now, do you remember, a typical trolley has 50 items in it. So Alexa didn't say, well, item number 1 is this, and so on and so on and so on. It just gave us a quick summary. Well done, Alexa. Now, I've just put the milk in, but supposing I say,
Do I have milk in my trolley?
Yes, I found Yo Valley organic semi-skimmed milk in your Ocado trolley. Can I help with anything else?
OK, so that's handy. Find out if there's something in there. And now,
Remove that.
No problem. I've removed the Yo Valley organic semi-skimmed milk. Please ask again.
OK, so she was able to spot that that was referring to the milk. Well done, Alexa. And finally, something
Add
I'd never
wine,
asked for
please.
before, wine.
Did you say wine?
Yes.
What about the Ned Sauvignon Blanc at £8.24?
No, I want some red wine, please.
Just to check, you searched for red wine.
Yes.
What about Legionella Optimus at £32.99?
Oh, yes.
Okie dokie, I've added Legionella Optimus at £32.99 to your Ocado trolley. Do you need me for anything else?
No, thank you, that's all.
Okay, over and out.
Ah, how sweet. And notice how she's varying the vocabulary she's using, yeah? So each time you get slightly different sentences back from Alexa, just to convince you that she really is alive. Now, it all worked very well in this demo, but in practice, you'll be surprised to hear that there's a few challenges in getting this to be perfect. Let's see 5 of them. Alexa, ask Ocado to add cheese. I've added chilies. Oh dear. So, when you type something wrong, it's called a typo. So if you say it wrong, it's called a voice-o. Invented here, note that, by Ocado. We've invented voice-os. So what are we going to do about this? Well, Alexa is going to improve her speech recognition. But also, I think we need to exchange more personalized data. We need to be telling Alexa the sorts of things you order so that you know why you order cheese, not chilies. And also, we would like Alexa to give us back the phonemes she thinks that the person's uttered and the probabilities of them. And then we can use our knowledge in order to weave in a more accurate speech recognition. Next challenge. Alexa, add milk. Or even, Alexa, add milk to my Ocado trolley. And Alexa says, I've added milk to your non-Ocado shopping list. OK, so there's a confusion between the shopping list built into Alexa and adding them into your Ocado trolley. And so although you can say, Alexa, open Ocado, connect me to the skill, there's lots of people who just say, just add milk. But they meant add milk to the Ocado basket, not to the arbitrary shopping list. So maybe we should be able to set up a default grocery provider so it makes it a little easier. Person says, did I add cheese to my order yesterday? OK, so this is getting a bit difficult, this person. Alexa misunderstands and says, I've added Waitrose mature cheddar cheese to your Ocado order. OK, so I think this is where we need to get beyond just intents. And maybe we want the full text from Alexa, and then we could do some deeper conceptual analysis on it than we can do with just intents and slots. So modeling is currently limited. Challenge number 4. Add 10 fish fingers, 3 bunches of bananas, and some dishwasher tablets, but not the lemon ones. OK, now this is getting a little hard. Now, 10 fish fingers. Now, do you mean 10 fish fingers in 1 pack? Or do you mean 10 packs of 10 fish fingers? Or what do you mean? And how many bananas are you talking about? And which are the dishwasher tablets that haven't got lemon-scented stuff? OK, so this is getting tricky. And we collectively need to do a bit of this. Ocado needs to do some clever machine intelligence, and Amazon needs to do some as well. And finally, bit of confusion. Thank you, says the user. I've added Lindt thank you assorted chocolate pralines. So this interfered with the flow quite a bit until we got rid of those. So we need a bit of smarter product knowledge. So there we are. There were 5 challenges. But overall, customer feedback is very positive. It's a very good idea to be able to add items to your basket whilst you're cooking. And one thing people really like about Alexa is when she said, there's something already in my order for me to find that out from the Ocado app is a painful process. So if I say, Ocado, add bread, it'll say, oh, well, you've already got some bread in the order. It'll tell you which bread you've got and says, do you want to add some more? So it's very personable. So finally, what about the future? Well, not only is Ocado working on the robots that were moving boxes of groceries around and the robots that pick them from one place to another, but the Ocado is involved in a Horizon 2020 project with European and UK London-based universities to create a humanoid-like robot assistant to help maintenance people in our warehouse to carry out maintenance tasks. So as a human, you could say, excuse me, Alexa, pass me the screwdriver, and it will. So what happens when this transfers into the kitchen? Alexa, please help to clear up the kitchen. So that's it. That's our second-hand robot. There's a real robot in the warehouse today learning how to clear it all up. Jolly good. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much for listening. And back to Max.
Thank you. That was awesome. Thank you. Thank you, David. This is fantastic. All right. So we saw several things that are best practices in voice. One of that stood up for me was create or tend or have the goal of creating natural experiences that are varied in the way that might welcome the user, that might take the user back, that may provide the variance, so that the specific possibility of having a new experience every time. So there are some best practices that we share around here, but we have to remember why we're doing this. Every single time we have to remember to ourselves, this is not about the technology. First and foremost, it's about human beings. This is human technology for human beings. So actually, when you start looking into creating skills, creating voice experiences, start from scripts. Start from dialogues. Put dialogues on paper. Have people actually running out every single branch of your interaction model, because you have to make sure that that is natural enough. That sounds natural. If it sounds natural already between people, you're onto something. If it doesn't sound natural between people, you can be sure it's not going to be any more natural between a person and a machine. So this is it's crucial. So forget about the technology part in the beginning, just start with the dialogue and do that very right. Voice user interface design is a new thing, but it's extremely important when creating this sort of opportunity, this sort of experiences. And what we're seeing here, we're seeing the BBC team. This is actually the BBC prototyping their voice interaction model. Now, another point here on the need for variety, and the person that created actually this slide sits somewhere around there, so thank you very much. I love this slide because I think this is one of the most important of the whole deck that you've seen, of course, after your slide, David. The point is you really have to tend to try your best to leverage the tools that we are making available to create a natural experience. So eyes wants uniformity, but ears, absolutely not. Uniformity for ears is boredom. So you want to create variety. You want to create experiences that change, that welcome the user differently. Even just a simple word will do. There is a little bit of emotions that have been put into the Ocado skills. A little bit of the funny phrase, occasional funny phrase here and there, make the experience more delightful. So ask your prompts differently all the time. Create that variety that you should be striving for. Now, as we wind up this talk, I wanted to give you a couple of links here to what we have as a support for developers, new and existing developers. Lots of training out there. Alexa.design/training is your starting point. We also have worked with the folks at Code Academy. So we used their great way to train developers throughout the world, and we created a few Alexa skills courses, completely free. So I would suggest that you check them up. We also have Dev Days. We go around Europe to educate developers. There is something important as well for those of you that have been using Alexa Skills Kit for a while. Alexa.user voice. Very, very important channel. We look at those things. That is a place, if you have a feature request, if you have a suggestion, if you have something that you would like done differently or incrementally or something that you would like to have added to Alexa Skills Kit, that's the place, Alexa.user voice. And those things are going to be looked after and put into the pipeline. GitHub. So if you're a developer, you might be already familiar. GitHub is the place for code snippets, for templates, for things to try. There is probably right now more than 15,000 repositories with the word Alexa in it. Our official one is the cookbook, is the Alexa cookbook. And by our, I mean the evangelist team and the solution architect team in Alexa. We put a lot of snippet of code there. You have tutorials, you have things that you can take and learn by doing. So pretty powerful. Alexa cookbook is right there. We also have promotions and things and incentives for local developers. You publish skills, you get things, you get swag, you get t-shirts, you get bags, you get devices, and so on here in the UK. And that's alexa.design/UK perks. And then we have the forums. So hopefully fairly self-explanatory, but lots of community support. And we're very open to other ways of supporting this. Now, I thank you very much. I hope that we gave you some food for thought. Pun intended, and we're available here for questions and online. Reach out. Thank you very much.